Preparing to live stream.
We're live.
Whoa, I think we're on, aren't we, gentlemen?
Wow.
We're live, except for later on when you watch us replayed on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. It is morning. It could be any time of the day. So hello. Welcome to our virtual vlog for Santa Barbara's longtime Astronomy and Telescope Club. SBAU stands for Santa Barbara Astronomical Unit. Which happens to be our average distance from the sun at any one time, about 93 million miles. It's called the SBAU Astro Hour. Your host here, Baron Ron Herron, Vice President of the club. Very proud to say that we are on YouTube. And it's once a week on Monday morning that we all gather together from our homes on Zoom for our little weekly podcast. Doggone, it's 21. This is the 21st we've done since February 1st when we had our first. That was 20 programs ago. And so join us for space stuff, rocket launches. Let me give you the headlines and I'll introduce you to the Brain Trust. For the week anyway, Jupiter's Io is crawling across the face. It might be over, actually. It was this morning. We'll talk about it. That's Jupiter and Io, and for you folks with telescopes. Mercury is into the Gemini constellation this week. Venus and Mars will be seen together in the sky. Some craters of the moon that aren't normally seen. And what is the belt of Venus? And are we going to get that billionaire back from space tomorrow down in New Hope, Texas, in the east, or no, western part of it anyway? We also got some breaking news from Europe, but I wanted to welcome aboard my next door neighbor, May O'Mahony, who was out trimming my side yard fence of nasty invasive, what are those things called? Trumpet vines? I hate them. Let's meet the gang, shall we, ladies and gentlemen, in his fourth term as our beloved president, with probably a little more white hair than the rest of us, but that just means more wisdom. Jerry Wilson, good morning, sir. Doctor.
Good morning. Good morning.
And his lovely wife, probably listening to us, Pat. Also with a wife named Pat, who is our merchandise manager, is our outreach coordinator, ChuckMcP. Chuck, good morning.
Hello.
Well, you got to have not only outreach report, but later on maybe an occultation of asteroids over stars. Have you been watching that, doing that lately?
Yeah, of course. Doing one tonight.
Okay. Tom Totten is the world's best webmaster and the man in charge, and he just amazes all of us every week when he calls up the photos and stuff, diagrams, just about in time. Bottom of my screen, could be anywhere on yours, they tell me, is a former Westmont College science instructor, had his own lab, and misses it dearly, editor of our newsletter, Tom Whittemore. Hiya, Tom.
Morning. Thank you.
Morning. All right. Can we do breaking news real quickly? And we'll just get this out of the way. Something about, it's called, I wrote it down right after you sent the email in the Jerry Wilson News Network, came out this morning. Severe storms that are devastating Europe. You've been seeing those stories, but produces almost an incredible atmospheric phenomenon called red sprites. I've heard of this before, and I forgot all about it until you brought this up again. We don't always get these. There's pictures of them. Jerry, what are red sprites?
Not entirely sure.
Really?
But they were first noticed, what, about 20, 30 years ago?
Right.
And
airline pilots, I think.
89.
Yeah, someone from a plane. And they're very quick, they're very brief, they're very faint. It's hard to get. This is a really good picture. But when you have a lightning strike going from clouds to ground, then after the main bolt is over, a fraction of a second later, these sprites appear above where the lightning bolt was. They go from the same cloud, but upward. And they only last for a fraction of a second.
Wow.
Their spectra has been taken, so we know what is excited there. I listed it in the text. But what they exactly are, I think that's still curious. At least it is to me. There may be an expert out there. He can call in and clarify.
Maybe we could call them anti-lightning, but they're heavy on nitrogen and they go up in space, the opposite direction. How high up are those?
The chart, I think, shows here that it's about 100 kilometers up, 50 to 100 kilometers up above the lightning strikes.
Whoa! So it could bring down Blue Origin tomorrow if we have them.
I don't know that they have much power. I don't know what their wattage is.
Well, where does the nitrogen come in? What's that all about? They're
Well,
made of nitrogen.
That's
Nitro-
the atmosphere. You're just exciting the nitrogen in the atmosphere.
It's fluorescing, Ron, just like in a planetary nebula.
And I've heard that the commercial airline pilots occasionally see those, mostly
Yeah.
above them, of course. Wow, that's fascinating stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, there is one other story before we get to the week. And let's see, you want to redo the black hole story from last week later on, my friend?
Sure.
Also, a question was sent to Tom Totten from our telescope workshop guy, Tim Crawford. Sooner or later, we got to get Tim on here, you know. According to Dick Beam, the center of the galaxy, Milky Way, is somewhere in Ophiuchus.
Well,
The
I
new-
think Dick takes pictures over toward that area of the sky, and he was saying this is toward the center of the galaxy. He wasn't saying the center of galaxy was in Ophiuchus, I don't think, because it's in Sagittarius, and I think all of us kind of know that.
It's near the border of, it's in Sagittarius near the border of Ophiuchus and Scorpius.
Yeah.
Scorpio, anyway.
I
But
just-
it's not a point. It's a region.
Okay, well, Tim thought that the center of the galaxy was somewhere near the spout of Sagittarius, the teapot.
Yes.
So that's the direction of the center. Is it behind all that clouds we see at the angle that is
Yeah.
the Milky Way? It's in the middle of that, perhaps?
Well, that's where the black hole is, at the core of the galaxy. But when you start talking about the center of the galaxy, you're kind of talking about the whole central bulge region, and that's a large region in that area of the sky.
But we're not looking at that when we see the Milky Way at the angle in the sky. We're looking at all the gas and dust that's over here in our arm, are we not?
Yeah.
No, we're seeing the glow from the stars in the center of the galaxy too.
Yeah.
Now the dust and gas is overlaid on that, so that's why you see some dark regions in it.
There's a question that I heard in when I was first in school on astronomy, and someone asked, how far can you see? And the answer is see to the nearest object. So looking toward the center of the galaxy, you see to the nearest thing that's in your way.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can only see with radio waves, anything going on, but what?
Through dust and gas, you can see with infrared. That's where they get the pictures of the stars orbiting the central black hole, or radio waves. Yeah.
So that black hole is a monster, and it probably is the center of every galaxy. There's a black hole pretty much, isn't there? It wouldn't be off center somehow, or the galaxy would adjust around it, I would think.
Well, no, I mean its gravitational influence doesn't extend through the entire galaxy, Ron.
It
So
doesn't?
there are some galaxies we've seen that seem to be mergers of two galaxies that have two or more supermassive black holes that may or may not be orbiting each other. So it's in our case, it happens to nicely sort of define an area very close to the center of our galaxy. But
Okay.
If
I
there's
sup-
the rule I heard was if there's a central bulge in the galaxy, then there's a black hole in it.
yeah,
If it doesn't have a central bulge, it probably doesn't have a black hole.
Well, not only a central bulge, but aren't we a bar galaxy? Isn't it a big, long, wide
Yeah.
Snickers bar?
yes, we're a barred spiral.
Is there a name that science has given that unseen black hole that's at the center of our galaxy? Do you know it, or is it just called the big black hole?
Sagittarius A star.
A star.
Mhm.
You know,
A asterisk, A star, yeah.
I just looked up on Stellarium. I put in Sagittarius A, and they said there's an east and a west. Why would that be?
Maybe the
It might-
bar.
It might be that it has radio jets coming out of it of some sort, because that sort of refers to a radio source.
Well, we got great pictures of radio waves. That's one of the reasons we're setting up the big what's the name of that? I can't remember
The Webb telescope is
Webb.
infrared, Ron, not radio.
Oh, it's not radio, it's infrared. Wait a minute, infrared, that's heat.
Well,
Right.
it's not heat, it's photons. And things always emit photons defined by the temperature of the object. So
I always,
colloquially, but incorrectly, it's referred to seeing heat.
I always thought it was a radio telescope. I swear I've heard
No,
that.
it's infrared, Ron.
It's very long wavelength radio.
Do we have
I
other,
mean, very short wavelength radio.
Yeah.
are there smaller versions of it now up there?
Yeah.
The Hubble's not one of those.
No, we do limited stuff from the ground, from the top of tall mountains, like in Tenerife or in Hawaii, because you're above most of the Earth's water, and it's water that primarily absorbs the infrared, but we still have windows in the infrared. The Webb is going to look out in a region we've never seen before because it's longer wavelength and we don't have a window that's available.
Is
And
there a
equivalent we've seen with maybe smaller radio telescopes in orbit, but
Right.
you know,
and one of them is called the Kepler, is it not? What kind of a telescope is that?
Kepler was optical.
Oh, everything's optical pretty much.
Not everything.
No.
Kepler was.
I don't have this listed, but last week we mentioned there was a problem. I guess the Hubble shut down, right? It has a hardware problem, and NASA's going to try to fix it from the ground.
They've rebooted it.
Have
back
they?
online.
It's back up and running again.
Yeah.
They switched to the backup computer.
Okay, gentlemen. Tom, what more? How you doing?
Oh,
You're
we're
out
fine.
there-
Fine. A lot of gardening these days.
I'll
So,
bet you are. I even have a little dinky aroma tomato plant that's starting to bear fruit. I've got 5 or 6 of them. They're about golf ball size. I'm going to make a salad. Let me
yeah,
throw
I'm
this.
growing a relative that called San Marzano. So that's starting to throw fruit. And the neat thing right now, I mean, if you guys want to talk about tomatoes just for a second, the neat thing now is that I'm getting these Berkeley tie dyes. They're absolutely beautiful. And they start out green, and then in the the indentations on these are heirloom, you get this beautiful red. So it looks like a tie-dye t-shirt, and they're absolutely phenomenally delicious.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
People either love or hate tomatoes. Let me throw this at you real quick.
Well, they were called love apples earlier,
Not going there, but I love a vine
Oh,
riper
no.
tomato.
People thought they were poisonous in Europe,
Well, they come from the family of nightshade, which is all poisonous except for the tomato, from what I
That's
understand.
what got it in trouble.
Not
Yeah.
poisonous. Potatoes aren't poisonous. Eggplants
But they
not
were
poisonous.
believed to be.
Peppers aren't poisonous.
No, but they're dirty.
Oh, thank you, Tom. There's a Berkeley over there on the right with a palm. That's exactly what mine looked like that. Thanks, Tom. Nice
Oh,
work.
That is gnarly, just gnarly.
Looks
Not
like
easy
you
to
brought
do.
it with a pumpkin.
Tasty one too. Anyway, back to astronomy, okay?
Let me
Well,
start
let me-
with
Let
Monday.
me throw a couple of possibilities at you. We want to
Mhm.
clear up the nearest black hole to us, which is only 3 times the size of the sun, but it's what, 1,500 light years away.
Oh, you want to talk about that now?
Well, either that now or the dwarf planet Pluto, since that just happened over the weekend, reaching opposition. Why don't we get that done? It's in the southern sky, rising at 8 p.m. over the weekend. This was Saturday night. It's behind us. Does that mean that Pluto crossed into the Neptune orbit, or it's
No,
crossed the ecliptic?
No.
It
That just means it was opposite the sun in the sky.
Can you see Pluto with your telescopes?
You need at least probably 8 inches now because it's way out in its orbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I keep on harping on this. The only time I saw Pluto was in Tucson, Arizona, up in the Catalinas in a 621 incher, And so I just checked it off. I'd never seen it before. So.
If you have a sensitive camera, you can get it in much smaller scopes. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Did you see
This was visual eye,
Tom, did you see a
eyeball
disc?
on an eyepiece. So.
Did you see a disc, Tom?
Oh no. Actually, it was interesting because when I was there for a teachers conference up in the mountains, I said, "Doesn't anybody like the moon?" It turns out there was a beautiful moon, and we put that thing at about 1,000 power, the 61 inch, and I literally thought I was walking on the moon.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool,
Well, later in the week, Thursday, when we get to our night sky for this week, there's some new craters. I say new craters, rare.
Yeah.
Not very often we get to see craters on the top, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let me just throw at these couple of headlines, and you grab onto anything you want from the Jerry Wilson newsletter. Asteroid Pallas, the second rock we ever discovered out there, orbiting the sun every 4.6 years. What's it doing? It starts, sits north of the circlet of Pisces. Are we watching that this week, gentlemen?
Yeah, remember that we talked about that last week or the week before.
Mhm.
Pallas, Pallas. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
Uh-huh.
the circlet of Pisces.
Okay, and Pegasus.
Yeah.
Pegasus. Okay, so you'll need binoculars to see it. How about
What, wait, where are you on this? You're jumping around and I can't find it.
what I get from you in our talking points, Mr. President, are the 5 days of the week, which I could start with if you want, or I thought I'd just wait and go to that. And then they're followed by these other stories that aren't labeled with a day of the week.
No,
Asteroid Palace is
they're
one, the
general-
constellation. What?
Oh, there we are. Passage of Pallas. Pallas.
Ah, yeah. The second one, I wonder what the first one never
Yeah, could you
discovered.
show the finder chart for that, Tom? Yeah,
The first one was Ceres, Ron, the big one.
Oh, okay. Well, now that brings up the question I had about Pluto. We know that there are about 3 dwarf-sized planets. Are they called dwarf-sized planets or not? In the
Dwarf
asteroid belt?
planets.
just
what?
dwarf planets.
Dwarf planets. And there's only one officially in the asteroid belt.
And that would be Ceres.
Right.
What's the one that starts with the letter V?
Vesta?
Vesta?
That's an asteroid
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
currently.
Is it globular? Is it shaped like a ball?
It's walnut shaped.
Oh, okay. Well, they got to be shaped like a ball as Pluto is. And so my question would be, how many Plutos are way out there in the Kuiper belt? Do they know?
Good
Are there,
question.
Don't
I mean,
know.
aren't there a couple of other dwarf planets the same size as Pluto?
Close to it, yeah. Maki Maki, Haumea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go back to Pallas, the
Okay.
finder chart for Pallas.
I'm going to buy a pair of binoculars. Then I can figure out how to hold them steady. Okay, it's on the
So there's
border. Up
Oh,
Here's
here.
the finder.
Yeah, you can see Pallas is the red spot, 2 Pallas over there. This is
Okay.
at 11 o'clock on the 21st. What the will be in the east. It's just rising. It's late night. I don't know what the buildings are. That's from my planetarium program.
Looks like an airport.
Yeah, something. There's a lot of dirt in the foreground, maybe a farm.
We're seeing an asteroid like a star.
It'll look like a star. It won't be red in the sky. It'll be just white like the rest of the stars.
Well, Mr. Outreach, have you ever occulted a star using Pallas?
No, I haven't seen an occultation, but I've observed potential occultations of Pallas, but didn't get a positive.
Now, it's not in the Jupiter orbit as a Trojan, is it? It's in
Not a Trojan.
it's the belt between Mars and Jupiter.
And between about 1810 and 1860, it was considered a planet.
Is that right? Can you
Pallas,
see it?
Juno, and Vesta and Ceres were considered planets.
And so it simply reflects the sunlight, and we can see it with the naked eye.
I don't think it's probably rare that it gets bright enough to see naked eye.
Do you know who Pallas was in ancient medieval history? Is that
Greek goddess.
Greek goddess.
The equivalent of Athena,
Oh,
I think.
Oh, okay.
Right? Goddess of knowledge.
Do you want to know where it is? Or does it matter? I guess it's throughout the week, or it's not tagged on to one of these days we're going to talk about here in a minute. But we can go to Constellation Lyra if you want. That's also part of Jerry's talking points. Can I read you what I have? Going to be high in the eastern sky after sunset. It's the Hark, and it's talking about double doubles.
Yes.
Naked to the naked eye, double star. You get to see
You look
two.
at the finder chart for that. It shows Vega as a big black dot. This is
Okay.
a negative image of the stars. But Vega is actually a very brilliant, very white star. It's unmistakable. And up above it, you see an epsilon squared.
mhm.
That's the double double.
That's a double double. That's a binary.
Yeah, it's a binary, and there's a picture of it taken through a small telescope, a 5-inch telescope by Nikolai. The star on the left, the double star on the left, is the double double. And if you magnify those two stars up, you see that they're each doubles.
Well, this is both. This is the double double here.
Mhm.
Vega is not part of this.
Vega's not part of this.
Okay.
Wait,
But
blow up
okay,
the two in the lower left.
yeah, in your binoculars, you see the two that are spanning
Right.
this entire picture.
Yes.
But then when you look with a telescope, you can split each pair of the double into a double. And so it's
Yeah.
called the double double. And there's a wider and easier one called the double doubles double, but it's not as bright as this one, so it's not as
Yeah.
famous.
So below it, can you magnify these lower left two stars?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So you can,
Is that epsilon 1 or 2?
All right.
so you can see that each of those is a double.
Well, that's an artifact, Jerry. The double double is the wide span over here because they're at slightly different angles when we see
Yes.
them.
They
I
actually
think
look,
it's
they
just
almost
an
look
artifact.
perpendicular. Chuck, they always looked almost perpendicular to me.
Right, and here it is.
Yeah.
So you can see it on the two edges. I
Yeah.
think that's just
So
an
you're
artifact.
saying that the one down here on the lower left is just the chance star behind it?
No, I think that's just
no.
an artifact, an optical artifact.
Oh,
Okay, this is part of Constellation Lyra, which is a large, harp in the sky?
huh.
I don't seem to recall a harp up there, but there's snakes and all kinds of bulls, and maybe
Yeah.
that's the reason.
Yeah,
So
to me, this system of stars has, it's very easy to pick off with the 8-inch at Westmont, okay? But it's always, to me, been a test of how steady your night is, whether or not you can crack those two individual stars on the right and on the left. If you can crack them.
Crack them, meaning see them.
Separate them.
Separate, yeah.
See more than just one set of double,
Mhm.
Okay, but they're not part of the constellation, or they, like
They
a
are.
leg or they
Yeah,
are
well,
part.
In the constellation,
Lyra, they
Lyra the harp, Lyra the harp.
Lyra, how do you say Lyrae? Epsilon 1, Lyrae, Lyrae,
Lyra.
Lyrae.
Lyrae,
Okay.
and Epsilon 2. All right.
I've got a
Gotcha.
Latin background. I say Lyrae.
Yeah, you're more correct.
Okay.
Ron,
Hey.
can you see the harp here that in the
Oh.
stellarium?
Yeah,
There
I
you
just, okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, you're talking about the big overview that I had. Wow, I was looking in the middle where the arrow is. Oh, that's my arrow. Never mind. All right, I just don't remember seeing that. And who came up with that, you suppose? The Greeks or the Romans? Or
That's a Greek. That's the harp, Apollo's harp.
so they had instruments. That instrument would be a lyre, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of liars in my life. Never mind. Let's. Interesting stuff. Constellation Lyra. Okay, it's in the east after sunset, as we said. There you go. Incidentally, Tom Whittemore, have we gathered at all during the pandemic out at the Westmont Observatory? Has there been any action out
No,
there?
it's interesting. So I got an email from Ken Tillstrom, who has now retired. And he asked me for some objects to look at in the sky. I assume he meant with the 8-inch. And he was giving a viewing for a bunch of campers out there. And so I connected him with a lot of pretty cool targets, I thought, and he had a lot of fun. It was last week. I think it was Wednesday, if I remember right. And there was enough of a moon and it wasn't too low that he actually got that in for the kids, sort of like towards the end of the showing. Okay. I'm sure he was using the 8-inch because that's such a crackerjack telescope.
Are they allowing students on campus, and do they have summer school going on out there?
I just don't know. I've retired from there, and I've only been there once to deliver a bunch of donated books from Santa Barbara High, and I just put them in the observatory on the table in there, and just went over to Winter Hall to say hello to everybody. But there were very few people even there, so.
During the school year, they've been having students on campus, living on
Yes,
campus.
that's correct. That is right.
They had a strict testing regime.
Who runs their astronomy department? Is that you, Tom?
I used to. I just don't know what's going on there. And again, I didn't quote run the astronomy department, but I was, along with the club, often the one who, would open up the telescope and, show the Third Friday stuff to everybody. But the last time we did that was in February, I believe, of 2020. Okay.
Wow. Jeez.
Yep.
We will do it again, gentlemen. Shall we do
I
the mic?
hope so. It's such a wonderful sight, you know.
My one or two times I was there, and I seem to recall 2 floors. There was a big rounded stairway that goes on the outside up to the second
Right.
level. And
Right.
there's this beautiful little telescope sitting in the middle of the rounded dome. But down below on the ground floor are computers that are hooked to it. So
Yeah.
you can see on the screen.
Right. Mhm.
Well, you can't
It's
see on
sort
the
of quote
screen, Ron.
the operation room.
Right. It doesn't show the view of the telescope on the screen, Ron. It just shows a
Right.
stellarium type program that's used to control the telescope.
That's right. Mhm.
And
Why
if you have
wouldn't
the
they do
camera hooked up, you can look through the camera, through the scope.
Yes.
Oh, okay. But I got to tell you, Chuck McPartland has an incredible scope that goes down to a laptop computer and shows color. Look at this. There it is.
Yeah, it just goes to a monitor, Ron, not a computer.
Yeah.
But
That's a really nice shot of that spiral stairway that takes you up to the deck and also to the door that opens up into the where the 24-inch is with the 8-inch piggybacked on it.
something else I remember, cookies.
That was
yeah.
usually Taunton. Tom Taunton would always bring cookies.
That's who was. You're right. Sure glad there's some good advantages here of this damn
And
pandemic.
that photo Tom just brought up is from probably a third Friday, and there's Ken in the blue shirt.
Oh, that's not Ken. That's Dr. Summerman.
It's fake. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
This is from the Westmont webpage.
I see. Okay.
So that's not a Friday. That's when they opened it up or something.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Well, our observatory telescope's subject to a lot of breakdowns. It seemed like we had one going on out there at Westmont, and then we had trouble with the Museum of Natural History's little observatory too. Something about a chain coming down the wall or something. Has that been repaired? Does anybody know?
Yeah, the observatory telescope is fully functional as far as I know
At the museum, yeah.
at the museum.
And it's
And
not.
the shot there of the control room downstairs.
There it is. Wow.
There's a couple of scopes I, helped fix up for the public. They were donations. On the left is an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain with the orange tube. And on the right is an 11-inch wonderful mirror, 11-inch that was donated to somebody who used to go to Westmont, moved to Seattle and couldn't see a darn thing because of the weather.
Switched his major to
Jim
meteorology.
Crawford often is in charge of that one on the right. He just loves that telescope. Okay, it's got a, and some folks here will know this. It's got a Zambuto mirror. It's just a really wonderful mirror. Okay.
What was our Westmont Observatory night of the month? It was what, third Friday or something?
Third
Oh
Friday.
yeah, always third Friday. Yeah, and that's the 24-inch. Is that me?
I think that's you, yeah, and the 8-inch.
Uh-oh, that one snuck through there.
Yeah, oh, you're trying to cut you out, huh?
Yeah. So I'm looking down the 8-inch, probably just to see what's available that night.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the 24-inch, okay, which is a Ritchie Chrétien telescope. It's a reflecting telescope with special optics.
Well, forgive me, Tom Whittemore, for not knowing exactly what you did, but my understanding was you taught electronics and stuff in your lab.
Yeah, I ended up teaching a lot of stuff there. When folks would go on sabbatical and things like that, I'd usually pick up their courses. And about 7 or 8 years ago, when Alan Nishimura retired from the electronic circuits course, I picked that up. Okay, I think it was one of the most fun things I ever did there because I sort of guided it towards analog computers, and I'm not a double E, but like Jerry knows, you fix enough things in graduate school as a physics major that you kind of learn how circuits work in the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 City College astronomy professors in the club, Sean Kelly and Aaron O'Connor. But as far as I know, City College does not have a telescope, does it?
No, they use the museum scope, right, Chuck?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That was the whole arrangement. Was they do a lot of their astronomy teaching at the museum because it has both the observatory and a bunch of small scopes and the planetarium.
Yeah.
But they also have an astronomy club of their own, and they have some small scopes.
Really?
Yeah.
Any of those guys cross-pollinate and come to our meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally.
And they give talks at our meetings too.
Oh, they have.
Remember the time Kelly made a comet?
Yeah.
Well,
made a
yeah, he did all kinds of demos. Yeah.
Oh, look at the pictures. Oh, we got a bunch of pictures, don't we, Tom Totten? Is it called, what is it called, Flickr? Is that
Well,
the
this is all sorts of different places. This is actually the Channels, which is the City College newspaper photos.
Oh, okay. Well, we missed convening and we're going to wait till the time is right or the museum lets us come back. And we can have our star parties on the second Saturday of the month following our board meeting. Our general meetings of the Santa Barbara Astronomical Unit are the first Friday of every month in the evening, 7 o'clock, I do believe, starting with a little half-hour ad-lib planetarium show, Gladwin Planetarium next door.
That's unlikely to happen anytime soon, Ron, because the museum is operating under this conditional use permit where they're in a residential neighborhood and they have a strict limit on the number of people that can attend in a year. And our meetings and our star parties count toward that attendance cap. And because they were fairly popular during the pandemic, they're close to hitting that cap. So they don't want us to come and meet and bump them over their limit because we basically cost them money. So.
But little Herron Hall right next to the planetarium is empty on those first Fridays just because of the grand total being eclipsed around the whole museum. Is that the deal?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, there's also the question of indoors with the Delta variant too. So there's all kinds of considerations. It's not like they're picking on us. It's just that they've got these limitations in how they can operate.
Has any of us decided to go down to Ventura and check out BCAS at their meetings, or are they having them?
I think Tom has. Tom Totten?
Well, I think that they kind of share meetings with Orange County somehow, that they do some of that. And they have another type of meeting that called from, I can't remember what the group is called, Everyday Spacer meetings. And they bring people in. So they have talks going on. And Ron, that's something we should consider, trying to find somebody that we could get a talk going. But it's better to have a webinar type format. And I don't know if the museum account allows for that. It's extra money to have a webinar type account with Zoom so that you just have the speaker being able to talk properly and take questions. It's a little bit different. Although I think we could do it in this format, but it might be a little bit messier, but we could have speakers right now if we wanted to.
Webinar. What did you have to say, President Jerry?
Oh, I said, Tom was referring to the museum's account, and they graciously let us do this podcast on their Zoom account. So that's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
For you new people watching that are potential new members, we're one of the few clubs that are supported and endorsed by our beautiful Museum of Natural History. All the museums are together doing something, discounts or trying to get people to come back. And according to
it's a special, museum day for low income people.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Let me just tell you quickly before we go to the night sky here on our podcast, the SBAU Astro Hour, cartoon of the week, sent to all of us by our beloved president. Just announced, scientists have discovered a sound made just before the Big Bang. They appear to hear it went, oops. God speaking. Oh, well, got to live with it. Now, if we go to Monday, which we're in, most of this is behind us, and knowing how
it is on the up there, but it discusses the times that it takes for these shadows and moons to transit. And the picture that is showing now in the caption of the picture, that gives what's going to happen at 8 o'clock tonight. And this picture shows that. The Callisto and Ganymede are close in conjunction way over on the left. Io is just about to start transiting its shadow on the planet. It will move from left to right, and Europa is behind the planet in occultation. It's being occulted by the body of the planet and will emerge.
But Jupiter's not up until 10, so this is 2 hours before you can see it.
Right.
Well, now, according to your notes, set to cross the big planet before dawn today, which means it happened already, doesn't it?
Those things happened already. That's clipped out of the astronomy magazine, Sky This Week. And it talks about what happens very early in the morning, this morning, which, it's not the question, why is it there since you can't see it? It's there because it shows the transit times that these things take to get across the disk.
And you guys can see the shadow?
Yes, it looks like a little black dot. And as Chuck points out, it comes up at 10 if you have a flat horizon.
Yeah.
That's just about when Io will finish transiting the disk.
Okay, so that's done, but
I
this is
just
not,
picked this because it's an interesting configuration.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, a little 8-inch Dobsonian will get all that in, or do you need
Oh,
a,
yeah. Jupiter's easy with any scope or binoculars.
but those two stars way on the left, one is C and one is G, that would be,
Callisto and Ganymede.
they're
Yeah,
that
they're mo-
close? Are they really that close together?
That's a perspective. One is way in the background and one is in the foreground.
Oh, I see.
And they're
Gotcha.
moving in different directions.
Is the little dot just next to Jupiter on the left, is that Io? Having
That's
gone
Io.
by? That's Io. For the benefit of any listeners and watchers and viewers that don't know, that's a little volcanic, horribly, my God, it's,
Looks like
I don't think there's any other moon in the solar system like Io, is there?
No.
And the reason
cheese
is it's being
pizza.
wrenched.
Now this is
What?
from a software app called Jupiter Moons on my iPad, and those little arrows at the bottom let you scan forward and backward in time, and you can watch the moons rotate and stuff. And I just pick an interesting thing and freeze it. If you don't have the app on your phone or iPad, it's really fun. There's also one called Saturn's Moons.
But
And just about any planetarium program will let you do this too.
Yes, yes.
But there are 4 of the 60-something moons Jupiter has. Is that how many? 60?
79.
That's what, geez, they keep adding to them. But we can only see 4. And there's 3 here, Io, Callisto, Ganymede. What's the 4th? That we can-
Europa is there, but it's behind Jupiter. So you see that E, but you don't see the dot.
And can a person with binoculars see all that?
Yes.
All 4 of them?
Although
people-
you probably can't see the shadows with binoculars.
Right. Some people with very good eyes can see these moons naked eye, or so they claim. I've never had eyes like that.
Yeah, I've heard people can see Callisto at maximum elongation, especially children, if you block Jupiter with something like a telephone wire.
Block Jupiter with a telephone wire? I
Yeah,
don't-
you have a telephone pole nearby with wires, and you use the wire to occult Jupiter, then you have a chance at seeing Callisto.
Or a branch of a tree works just as well.
Yeah.
Well, tell me this, you can see the shadow, a little black dot on the surface of the planet. Can you see the moon itself? Is it off in the dark, off to the side, or is it above it and gets kind of lost in the clouds covers? You know what I'm saying?
All those things happen.
Okay.
Sometimes you can see a disk, like Ganymede looks like a dark disk against Jupiter. Io tends to look like a bright disk, makes it harder to see unless it overlaps one of the bands. But sometimes you can see the moon off to the side, and it casts its shadow so far to the side that you can see also the shadow.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. McPartland, as an aficionado of the occulting of asteroids, since the asteroids are this direction toward us in between Mars and Jupiter, do they ever go across, and can you actually see the outline of a little rock? Does that ever happen?
I'm sure it's happened, but they're way too small for any kind of backyard telescope.
You mean the asteroids are too small?
Yes. But what you do see are mutual events of Jupiter's satellites. Right now, the plane of their orbits of the 4 big moons is
Right.
pretty much edge onto us. So you see these moons occult each other.
Okay.
Now, these events where the moon occults the planet, or eclipses the planet, or eclipses the sun from the planet, or goes behind the planet, these things can be timed very accurately with 1600s calculus. And as Jupiter changed its distance from us, it was noticed that the predicted times of these different events was delayed. And that was the first, they realized correctly that was the travel time being different for light between the planet when it was far away and when it was close. And that was one of the first accurate estimates of the speed of light.
That was Ole Romer. I think he's Danish.
Right.
Astronomer.
Danish, right, Chuck, Danish. Mhm.
Well, now, does Jupiter have some rings, even though they're hardly there?
Yep.
Like Saturn?
Yes.
Do they go in the same ecliptic as all the moons?
Well, in the equatorial plane of Jupiter, yes.
So there's rings there that we don't see. We got a satellite going around Jupiter called Juno. Does it see those rings?
It probably could. I don't know that they've specifically tried to image them.
Okay, well, they're certainly not as big and colorful and notorious as Saturn's.
What Tom is showing now is photos of the ring. Some are obviously artist impression, but it looks like the black and white ones in the middle are photos.
What's science's explanation? Do they have one that applies to all rings? Are they satellite that totally fragmented? Or are they just a lot of rocks like asteroids that haven't formed into a ball yet?
It's
Either one of those.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's inside the Roche limit where the tidal forces from the planet will pull it apart.
Oh, and then the other two gas giants out beyond, Uranus and Neptune, have rings too, don't they? That we can't see.
Mhm.
And you'll never see them with a telescope, with your telescope. You'll never see those rings, will you?
You can see them occult stars.
Really?
That's how they were discovered.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much the same thing as the ones on Saturn, little snowballs and rocks.
Except on especially on the outer planets, I think they're darker. They're not as reflective. They may not be covered with ice like Saturn seemed to be. So they have more polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and other dark things.
That must be that mythical black ice. Just,
Smog.
Yeah.
just a joke, just a joke.
We could use all we can, Mr. President, but I'm curious why the rocky planets, the little ones like the one we're on, don't ever have rings.
We probably had a ring
Probably
back
had a
when the
ring?
moon was, when the moon debris got splashed off before we had a moon.
Moon was a planet crashing into the Earth ages
Well,
ago.
Althea.
Debris from that.
Oh, hi, Bruce.
Fascinating stuff. Totten,
Yeah,
you're awesome. Thank
the
you, my
Earth-
friend.
The Roche limit for the Earth is very close to the surface, so we won't have a big ring forming out there.
Yeah.
Our ring will enter the Earth's atmosphere.
Roche limit. Now, is that the same point we're going to put the Webb? Is that a Roche? No, that's
No, that's,
No,
that's Lagrange, isn't it?
yes.
Lagrange. Yeah.
Lagrange. All right. Well, that's another topic for another day. Shall we go to Mercury and Gemini for Tuesday, tomorrow? In case you missed Io, big transit of Jupiter, we have Mercury growing brighter over the past 2 weeks, though visibility is on the decline. If you're up before dawn, spotted shining brightly at magnitude -1, about 45 minutes before sunrise, just 3 degrees high and rising between the Gemini twins. There we are. It's about
And you can see the glow from the sun starting to come up. So this is just before sunrise.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be tough for us.
Yeah.
With our
can't see it in,
Well,
you
for
won't be able to see it before then, huh? Okay.
We had
And
too many clouds last night.
oh, another voice joins us. Welcome aboard.
Oh, I see. I misspelled Betelgeuse.
Boy, it took me 45 minutes to get on to Zoom.
You're kidding.
I kept trying and trying and trying, reset my modem, and blah, blah. And finally it did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard our friend Bruce Murdoch, longtime active member, and just happens to be the president of the Santa Barbara Theater Organ Society, and his wife is Bonnie. In fact, I don't know
Correct.
your wives enough. Everything going fine with the organ lovers, the people there at the Arlington, where it comes up out
Well,
of
we're gonna do a video next week on basically how to run the organ, because I know how to and other people do, but the unwashed public does not. So there's a woman, Gail Kivistad, who is the daughter of our now deceased past treasurer. And she's a videographer, and she runs a living in Santa Barbara, and she wants to do this. So we're all in favor. But I don't know if the theater is open for movies or not. Though they had that free event, silent movie, and thank you for bringing that up. But the theater was very restricted. They had three rows of seats blocked off, and then one open, then another 3 blocked off, and one open, and you can only sit every third seat in the row. They were limited to 200 people in the theater by the the city council or whoever sets the rules.
Mhm.
So I don't know if
Okay.
they're what the rule is now.
Gonna have to tell Bruce the same thing I told our good friend Tom Whittemore at the beginning.
Oh, there's Gail Kivistad. Yeah.
We're looking up your nostrils. Can you adjust your lens at all? Get a better shot of your handsome face. Well, I don't even see you
I don't-
now on my side of the
Well,
screen.
I don't. I guess I have to push something on here to see myself. I don't see myself. It's up here.
I don't see you at all because we've got most of the screen filled with the interior. As long as we got that on there, Tom Totten, I've got a suggestion for what it's worth. Bruce, are you ready? You're up for a suggestion?
Yeah. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine, Bruce.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
okay. Well, you guys can, but I can't on my laptop.
fine.
That's all right.
Fan.
Coming up, in a couple weeks is Fiesta, and it's going to be partially open. There's not going to be a parade, but they're going to do the dancing on the steps of the mission. Have you ever thought about having your organ involved inside the Arlington, Bruce, playing the music to old Cisco Kid reruns? I think make a grand thing. Remember?
We could. The theater pipe organ is designed to replace the orchestra that used to play for some movies. It's got all sound effects necessary to accompany a silent movie. It's also got deep throbbing sounds you use for heroin and distress. And
Oh yeah, right. Pauline.
yeah, we've done a lot of silence. You can play, Lone Ranger theme. Come on, I can't remember it right now.
Yeah, that's the main one.
Rossini.
Yeah,
Rossini, yeah. The
Yeah.
William Tell Overture.
there you go.
Oh, now I can see myself. Okay.
Well, actually, my idea would probably not involve an organ too much. We all grew up to the Cisco Kid. He used to hang around here. He'd ride his horse into Joe's, believe it or not. Duncan Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I used to love that
And Leo
show.
Carrillo.
Yeah, a couple of Mexican American guys on horseback,
Right.
black suits. And at the end, they'd all go, "Oh, Cisco, oh, Pancho." I'd love to watch those. Can we get into the rest of the week, gentlemen? Mercury, anybody want to talk about it rising into Gemini? What does that mean? Mr. McPartland, perhaps? Or-
Means it's hard to see, very low in the early morning sky.
All right. Well, then, shall we go on to Venus? Up in Regulus on Wednesday, Venus and Mars will be dominating, making Tom Totten have to scramble to change again, go to a new day.
Yeah, Venus was really close to Mars, and now it's moving away, and you can see
Yes.
it's already up by Regulus.
Okay, Regulus is on this. There it is. Okay, it's moving right. Is it in retrograde?
That's kind of a weird term to use for inner planets.
Yeah.
Well, it goes one way or the other. It goes around the sun, and if we see it on the other side, it's probably about as bright as we see it on this side because we only see a sliver on this side of the moon, right? Or the sun,
Well,
right?
the sliver
bigger.
is when it's close, and that drives the brightness.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's
actually
brighter with a crescent on this side of the sun than it is fully
Right.
lit up on the other side. Okay.
That's true.
And then Mars, the dimmer of the two, magnitude 1.8, sits further west along the ecliptic, nearly 5 degrees from Venus, closer to the horizon. This is Wednesday. For you folks with binoculars or a small scope, showing the red planet has a 4, seconds disk?
4 arc seconds.
Not very big. Is that what that is?
Pretty tiny.
Arc seconds.
Yep.
I'm learning those little signet signs or whatever they're all. The second planet from the sun is Venus, and that's the interesting part. Now Mars would have to be on the other side, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. See them both. Okay. Can we do Thursday? The moon. We talked about this earlier, gentlemen. I've never heard of this. It bobs up and down across the ecliptic as it orbits our planet. Therefore, you get better views of the north and south polar regions
Wow.
this week on Thursday. It'll hit its lowest point called a northern libration. There it is. And it gives us more of a top-down view, more so than usual. Is there a polar cap up there of some sort? Ice?
No.
No?
In the craters, maybe, but
That's,
Yeah, I thought that there was water frozen in one of the craters that I think was the South Pole.
yeah,
South
so
Pole,
it
Lincoln
has a
Basin.
couple of craters sort of permanently in shadow and therefore have ice in them.
Yeah.
Well, I know who Peary and Bird were, but Rojdestvensky, I have no idea. Russian.
Cello, conductor.
Okay.
These are probably, Nansen was also like, I think, a Norwegian polar explorer. So I think a lot of these are named after people who were exploring the polar regions of the Earth back in the early 1900s.
But these would represent big collisions, a large rock, a large asteroid making a big wide crater. They don't name the dinky ones, do they? Did we settle in a crater? Did we land in one, or just the mares, the seas of tranquility, et cetera? Where
there was one landing in the highlands, not in a crater of Apollo, but otherwise we tried to stick to the mare regions because they're smoother.
Yeah.
But the moon doesn't wobble.
And there it is.
Tom's showing the wobble now.
Oh, well, I'm seeing the sunlight go across it.
Yeah,
But see how its aspect is changing? That it's not really wobbling. It's because it's in an elliptical orbit. So from our point of view, if you hold it still like this, it looks like it wobbles.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's not above our equator because we're at an angle with the seasons and everything, right? So it's, where would it be above the Earth? Does it go up and down on a line? If you drew a line
Yes,
on the Earth, would it go up and down?
it would seem to. Yeah, it's tilted.
Yeah. And it's that tilt that you see this.
Oh, you're saying the moon is tilted.
No, well, the moon is tilted too, but
But the Earth is,
it's
that's how we get our seasons.
its orbit is tilted with respect to us. So
Right. Five.
the sun on every orbit.
Yeah.
So
And you can see above the moon sometimes and below the moon sometimes, okay, because of this tipping. And then you can see on the right sometimes better, and then on the left sometimes better because of the elliptical orbit of the moon.
Yeah, and that's given that it means you can see about 60% of the surface.
Right,
At
right.
some point.
So we get more than half. Mhm.
do any of you set up just for these librations?
Tom
No.
might.
Tom Totten or Tom?
No, I
Whittemore?
meant Tom Whittemore.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, with the 8-inch Westmont, okay.
Well,
It's
there's
more fun to set up with a libation though.
Yeah.
libation for the libation.
Yeah, it takes a month to librate.
Yeah, Maureen, bring me another libation. I'm about to.
Right on the libation.
I love it. Okay, well, you probably it's like looking at the shadows on a crescent moon, right? That's at the top. It's angled away, and you're seeing mountains on the edge. You can't really look inside these craters, can you?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, that's Thursday. Full moon on Friday, the 23rd, coming up, 7:37 p. Let's see, PDT is Pacific Daylight Time at night, and it will rise an hour before, no, shortly after sunset. Wait a minute, it's going to rise here an hour later than it will on the East Coast, I guess.
No. It just means that it rises here an hour after full moon officially occurs.
Oh, I see. It'll be below the horizon. Got it. And moon rises amid Earth's shadow as the sun moves. Is this the one that gave us this incredible pink glow?
This is your belt of Venus, yes.
The belt of Venus. That's going to need some explanation. We got 5 minutes, Mr. President. Here we go. What the heck is the belt of Venus? And have I ever seen?
What you see is right after the sun sets or before the sun rises, you can see the Earth's shadow rising in the atmosphere. And above it, frequently, there are these pink layers of clouds, and that's called the belt of Venus.
Right.
If you were up in that pink layer, that's where you'd see a red sunset.
Yeah.
Is that also the alpenglow?
No.
If it's
No,
shining
you see this, Bruce,
the other
because
way,
right.
But there's
Yeah,
a mountain
you see this
behind.
because the light is coming back towards you and the blue is becoming removed. Okay, so that's light
okay.
coming you above the
But
Earth's shadow.
it is, in some respects, it's similar to the alpenglow. When you're looking at your shadow below you when you're on a mountain or when you're in an airplane, this is a similar effect, but it's caused by the Earth shadow instead of your head
Right.
shadow.
Yeah.
if you were looking the other way, away from the sun, and you saw the red sunset reflected on a mountain behind us, opposite the sun, that's alpenglow.
Yeah.
Really?
I was going to say,
Well,
Pointing
if
out,
listeners would like to see this evening, just look to the southeast. Just look to the southeast shortly after the sun goes down or near goes down. And you can see the shadow of the Earth, and then you can see the broadcast of, I call it Venus girdle. That's the way I learned it. Okay, the girdle of Venus.
And then also there's another effect up here called a crepuscular ray. And that's
Wow.
the blue band that starts under the word belt and goes up to the left past. And that's the shadow of a cloud preventing the sunlight from shining on the part of the atmosphere that's turned red. So
Wow.
it's projecting these crepuscular rays come out from the sunset. And if they're persistent enough, you can see them go all the way across the sky and then converge
Wow.
back on the other end of the sky.
Wow.
I've only
Neat. That's to look for.
on Mauna Kea in Hawaii.
Well, there's a lot of strange things that the atmosphere does during sunsets and sunrises. There's also a green flash that I've never seen. For some reason,
It's very fleeting.
it's
It
what?
lasts maybe the flash lasts at most second.
Yeah, right.
it's-
And not everybody can see it. I think you got to be on a beach facing west or something.
That
Yeah,
helps.
we've seen it dozens and dozens of times up here where we live.
Why do you suppose they?
Many times around here where I live too. I've gotten pictures of it,
Yeah.
many
And-
pictures.
And there are people who have observed it multiple times in one evening because they're observing from a hillside next to
Yeah.
an ocean.
Yeah.
And they see it happen, and then they run higher up the hill and wait and see it happen again and
Yeah.
run higher up the hill and wait.
Well, I've heard you can see.
Oh, there.
I've heard you can see two different suns or three and cross types, depending on the atmosphere and the clouds. And why do they call it the belt of Venus? What does Venus have to do with all of that?
I have no idea.
No,
Well,
no idea.
You often see Venus low on the horizon because it's an inner planet, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
But somehow the red is filtered down to us. The rest of the colors of the spectrum just go normally above
Blue
us.
gets scattered by the atmosphere.
Okay. But that green flash is something else that allows green in, but nevertheless,
No,
and if
it's
you,
the same thing. It's the more blue wavelengths are getting scattered out, but green is persistent.
okay.
It's next-
Green is what our eye is most sensitive to, so you tend to see that first. But actually, there's every color in there flashing in order through the rainbow.
That's a great belt of Venus picture there that you
Oh,
have.
that's incredible. That's an incredible shot.
The belt of Venus one is taken in Bodie, California.
Yeah.
And this is a cool one too in Colorado.
Yeah.
what?
This one that Tom's showing is pretty cool too.
Yeah. That's spectacular.
Oh yeah,
So normally that sunset red would be on the horizon. The blue below it is the anachronism, the weird part.
That's
blue,
the
blue
Earth's
below
shadow.
it is the Earth's shadow rising in the atmosphere.
Right.
Oh, okay. Wow.
The-
So we'll see that any time. It just mentions it on Friday, but is it every night? We got a chance to check this out.
It's
We
clear.
see it every night. Just look to the southeast tonight after the sun goes down. You'll see it.
You might see clouds here, but
Yeah. It's supposed to be clear tonight.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Well, gentlemen, we didn't get to go to the nearest black hole story again. That was on Jerry's talking points, and maybe we can just keep that up there and send it to us again next week. And that's just, I got a couple of questions. It could be scary, but it is 1,500 light years away, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Ron, Ron, if you want to, we could just keep going a few more minutes if you want to stretch it out. Anybody in favor of that, or?
Sure.
Can we do
That's
that?
fine.
As long as we
Yeah.
want to make it. I thought we were under 1 hour conscription here. Okay, you posted it. We talked about it last week, and it's called the Unicorn, and it's in a constellation I don't remember either. A one-horned horse, Monoceros.
Mhm.
Rhinoceros.
That's the unicorn.
Yeah, and this black hole is unusual in that it's kind of small for black holes, right?
It's very small for a black hole. It's surprising. The way it was spotted was that the star is close enough to the black hole that it is distorted from being a sphere. And as it rotates, that spherical thing, this is not an actual photograph of it. This is an artist's rendition from the data. And the data showed that the star was non-spherical, and they isolated where the period of the star and how far away in order to distort the star like that the thing had to be and what its mass was. And they can't see anything there, so ergo black hole.
There go black hole. Now, if they were any closer, that big blob of a red star, that giant would become an accretion disk, probably, would it not?
Yes.
It'd be sucking it in, but
It's
aren't there
probably sucking something off.
aren't there stars? There got to be stars out there that are far larger than 3 solar masses, right? Some
Oh,
of them.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, millions.
Okay, that's what I
Huge.
thought. So why is 3 star mass collapse down into a singularity? Why does that happen?
That's right at the limit of where something might collapse into a black hole. You need a certain amount of mass to
You need a
get a
certain-
black
right.
hole.
You need a certain amount of mass, and there has to be a violent enough explosion to compress it past its event horizon.
Okay, but we'd be in just as deep a caca if we.
Neutron star.
Okay, wow. You think one of them will win out? The black hole will suck in the whole red giant later, or was the red giant going to have a explosion, perhaps supernova?
Well,
Well,
red
if it-
giants. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, you got it.
The red giant's already pretty big, but if it grows much, it's going to start feeding the black hole.
And
Do
if it's just a red giant, it's probably not going to blow up in a supernova.
Okay,
It might, usually those are red supergiants that do it. This is just a red giant, so they usually end up as planetary nebulae. Although this one might be big enough. I don't remember what the mass is. Jerry, did it have the mass?
It says of the black hole, it's three solar masses.
Well, of the star, though?
It doesn't say. I don't recall the star size.
Okay, yeah. So it has to be on the order of about 8 solar masses before it's going to have a supernova.
but wasn't it created by a star exploding into a supernova, and that's what's left?
The black hole may have been, yes,
Yeah.
but as far as the red giant that it's feeding off of blowing up, that's not likely. It's more likely it'll become a planetary nebula.
But is the red giant there, the big star, is it part of mononucleus?
Monoceros.
Montserrat.
Is it part of the unicorn, or they,
Yeah.
that's all you would see is be the star?
So Ron, monoceros means one horn in Greek, one horn.
Yeah. And that is a legitimate constellation?
Oh, yeah.
I don't recall. Let's see. I
Isn't
know
that what the
Pegasus.
helix is, Chuck? Isn't the
Yeah.
helix of Monoceros?
It's right next to Orion. It's charging at Orion kind of from underneath his arm there.
Mhm.
But we have 2 horses up there. There's Pegasus, the flying horse, and then a unicorn is a horse with a horn.
Yeah, and then there's Achilles, which is the little
Yeah,
horse.
the little horse.
A lot of horses. Hmm.
And
Well,
then depending on what
from
you
time
think
to
about
time.
Sagittarius and Centaurus.
Well, are you guys out looking at this, or can you see it with your telescopes? Any of
No.
this?
You might be able to see the red giant. It doesn't say the absolute magnitude of it.
Okay.
All right, now on the screen, it says masses in the stellar graveyard and solar masses. That's somewhat similar to, no, that's not like the
That's Tom's chart. He can explain it.
Gary's extra galactic distance ladder. That's another diagram we'll probably go into next.
So Ron, in this diagram, you can see how rare they are down there between 2 and 5 solar masses. And so this black hole may have formed, maybe if this were a triple star system somehow where 2 of them were really close and then the 2 neutron stars that were formed collided. But that's kind of really dynamically weird to happen here. So that's why they're calling it a unicorn. Not only is it a constellation, the unicorn, but it's like a rare and hard to explain event.
Well, that myth of the unicorn is old, isn't it? That really goes back to Middle Ages. Somebody must have put a horn on a horse or something.
Apparently it happened in Ireland because it's on their shield of their, what is it, coat of arms.
Is that right?
So that, but you never know what the Irish are going to see with all that.
The Grimm brothers didn't come up
A
with
lot of
that.
these really weird animals come from people finding fossils and not knowing what the heck was going on.
Yeah, that's where Cyclops came from, because they found elephant skulls or mammoth skulls, and they have a big hole in the front for their nostril, but everybody thought it was an eye.
Well, we can blame old man Grimm, I guess, the fairy tale guy, for some of this, but not those. Gentlemen, I think we've run out of time. Tom Totten, thank you very much. President
Thank you
Jerry
very-
Wilson, Can't wait to see you again without our mask. Outreach coordinator, Mr. McPartland. Give my love to Pat, your beautiful wife. Same for you, Jerry, your wife, and Tom Whittemore. Say hi to
Yeah.
Maureen for us. I'm sure they
Very
will.
well. Thank you, Ron.
And we'll join Mr. Murdoch. I hope you get it fixed and can join us at the beginning next Monday morning. We'll do our.
It took me 45 minutes to get on.
I understand that, and we're gonna hold a seance about it and see if the work on it for you. That's the
The
SBAU.
stars had to align.
Yeah, Astro Hour can be seen. I guess they're all archived. This is number 21 for the 19th day of July. We will see you all back here again from our homes next Monday morning at 11 a.m. Thank you, gentlemen.